Our top focus as of now, a day after the US expressed its strong opposition on Israel's decision to build homes for Jewish settlers in West Bank, the Israeli military spokesperson has now said that they have advanced plans for building more than 3,000 settler homes in the West Bank. Now, the West is not the only one voicing concerns as of now over this recent development. The coalition governments, Labour, have also denounced the approval of these plans. This comes a day after the US State Department spokesperson Ned Price said that the US is deeply concerned about the Bennett government's plans to advance thousands of settlement units in the region. The US had voiced opposition, saying that the move will damage the prospects for a two-state solution. The State Department spokesperson expressed concerns over Israel's housing ministry's announcement that it had published tenders to build some 1,355 housing units in 7 different settlements across West Bank.
We're concerned about the publication of tenders on Sunday for 1,300 settlement units, in a number of West Bank settlements. We strongly oppose the expansion of settlements, which is completely inconsistent with efforts to lower tensions and to ensure calm, and it damages the prospects for a two-state solution.
This is one of the rare occasions when the US has outrightly criticized Israel's expansion ideas in the disputed region. This also marks a gradual shift in the US stance in handling the West Bank conflict from its previous administration. The reaction comes after 4 years under Donald Trump, in which the United States offered a green light to Israel's activity on occupied Palestinian land. The State Department, under the President Biden rule, however, has repeatedly warned against settlement construction in the conflict-ridden region. West Bank has been occupied by Israel since the 1967 Six-Day War. Most countries regard Israel's West Bank settlements as illegal. The new settlement units add to more than 2,000 residences that already have been authorized for West Bank settlers. Some 475,000 Israeli Jews live in these settlements, which are considered illegal under international law. Ned Price's comments on Tuesday came as Congress was expected to approve $1 billion in funding for Israel's Iron Dome missile defense system. The funding is an additional support to the $3.8 billion which Israel gets annually from the US as military assistance. Tensions between the two sides have soared a little in the last few weeks after Israel designated 6 Palestinian NGOs as terrorist organizations. Meanwhile, Israeli Prime Minister Naftali Bennett is a right-winger and a strong supporter of these Jewish settlements. He, however, leads a coalition with centrists who seek to preserve stable relations with the United States. For more on this story, our correspondent Susan Teherani is now joining us live from New York. Susan, thanks so much for joining us. Now, as we know, the US, in a rare opposition to its ally Israel, has voiced concerns over Israel's decision to build more residences in occupied West Bank. How will this impact ties between the two going forward?
You know, what's interesting is this is being framed as really an unprecedented move by the U.S. government to criticize openly the Israeli government regarding settlement activities in the West Bank on the part of the Biden administration on the one hand, and on the other hand, it's not going far enough by some members of the progressive establishment on Capitol Hill, notably the squad like Rashida Tlaib and others. They want to even see a more harder stance when it comes to Israel on the part of this administration. But all in all, I think this administration understands that Israel is a longtime ally. And Ned Price made clear that while they voiced their concerns, there's only so much that they'll go regarding their criticism, and they'll, resolve things diplomatically. But it sort of hampers or, somewhat maybe puts a stone in the road of a two-state solution, if you may. I think what's more interesting is what's happening inside Israel itself regarding this new Bennett government, and the differences that we're seeing among policymakers inside Israel right now regarding settlement activities. And it'll be interesting to see whether or not Israel's labor coalition on the one hand, Benny Gantz, the Ministry of Defense on the other, and Bennett himself will be able to work together and find common ground on settlement activities and then deal with the United States, come together with a clear message with the United States in foreign policy aspects as well. So
right.
Those are interesting rubrics to take into consideration in this regard. Yeah.
Now, Susan, you mentioned the norm currently on the two-state solution. Now, Israel says that it is going ahead with the advancement in a move which can, of course, have wide implications for the region and the Israeli government itself, like you just mentioned. So how will this move affect the conflict as a whole?
We'll have to wait and see, but it really, at the end of the day, the United States and I think policymakers understand that Israel, being America's strongest ally, they will move forward diplomatically, as Ned Price said, to try to find a two-state solution, although that's something perhaps that's become a talking point from one administration to the other. But I think the main concern right now is this open criticism on the part of the Biden administration, considering the fact that it hasn't really been able to come out with a clear policy and foreign policy agenda and a doctrine on a number of issues. And the flip-flop that it had recently, not only regarding China, more recently on defending Taiwan, the pullback from Afghanistan, how it plans to deal with Europe and its alliances in Europe, its new approach to the Indo-Pacific, and then now you see its new policy in the Middle East. So I think that's more concerning for many people than perhaps this one aspect of a two-state solution with Israel. People are still trying to figure out where this administration stands on a whole regarding the Middle East than the settlement itself.
Susan Tehrani, thank you so much for all those inputs, and thank you for joining us from New York on this broadcast. WION World is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news updates on the move.